Welcome to the Ascent Podcast, a show about inspiring people who explain their path to achievement. I'm your host, Joe Burgess, Wealth Advisor at Moxie Wealth Management. Today on the show, we chat with Howie Zales, founder of HJZ Productions and Viridity Entertainment Services. We learn how he got into broadcast sports and entertainment production, how video production for a Super Bowl works, and the physical risks associated with running cameras during live sporting events. Howie, thanks for joining us today.
Oh, honored to be here. Thanks for having me.
We're obviously recording remote, and you're out just outside of Manhattan, right?
Yes.
So we'll get into some of your business and success stuff that you've had in a minute. Tell me a little bit about yourself. Where'd you grow up? What kind of kid were you? That kind of stuff. What were your interests?
Yeah, I grew up not far from where I live now, maybe 5 minutes away, in a suburb outside New York City, Rockland County. And, I spent my time going to school, going to day camp in the summer where all my friends are from and to this day still from. So, I had a great childhood playing sports with my brothers and friends.
Got it. What kind of sports were you into?
Baseball, basketball, not soccer, hockey, and, I wanted to play professional baseball.
Okay. Did it go beyond high school for you?
No, it did. I played a little club baseball in college, but nothing significant.
How did you get into being a camera operator?
Yeah, half the story is my love of baseball and sports in general. And then in 11th grade in high school, I needed an elective to finish out my course selection, and this one class, sounded good. TV production, a trip to NBC studios and a tour of NBC studios, and to watch a show being taped live. I'm like, well, how bad can this course be, right?
Right.
And I ended up falling in love with television production, and then I knew exactly what I was going to do.
And so from there, going to college, is it specifically, I'm studying for TV production?
Absolutely. I only applied to schools that had TV programs that, as a freshman, you can get your hands on the equipment and you could, be doing things like, because I had always heard, from people, like if you go to a school, like a big school like Syracuse, you can't touch the equipment until your junior year. Where I went at SUNY Plattsburgh, day one, we were, doing stuff.
Got it. So what is your first job out of college then? Do you get right into camera operator?
No, my first job was I was hired as a production assistant in this post-production house on Long Island, and it just so happened that the editor left. And during my final year in college, I did an internship where I learned how to edit, and I learned on the exact same piece of equipment that this company had. They were stuck without an editor. I jumped right in, started editing, but I hated it. And I eventually took a job as shooting news with a reporter in the field, and that's where I gained my camera experience.
Boy, I want to expand a little bit, but let's start with your first business there, HJZ Productions.
Sure.
How does that get started? Was that intentional, accidental? What happened there?
Well, accidental with the thought of, now I have a plan. And what I mean by that is a good friend of mine had asked me if I was available to do the Imus in the Morning show. At this time, they were taking the Imus radio show on the road, and they were going to do it from the Mohegan Sun Casino in Connecticut. Mm-hmm. And I said, sure. And he said, by the way, I need 2 more camera people. I need some audio people. And he said, can you, find me these people? I said, sure. And he said, can you just send me one invoice and pay them, and we'll, it'll make everything easy. And I said, sure. And then I got to thinking, there's got to be a business in this somewhere. Right. And slowly but surely, HJZ was born.
Has the industry evolved in that way? And that, I was thinking about this as I was preparing for some of our conversation, that I guess I never thought about it a lot, but I just assumed that you'd be an employee of like a major network, right? So anything that was on TV, that you'd be a staffed person versus a contractor. Is that the way it used to be, and has it changed, or how does that work?
No. Years and years ago, some positions in the sports world were staff. Like NBC, ABC, and CBS had some staff people, but at the let's say mid to late 90s, all the networks started selling off their equipment, their remote equipment, and then they laid these people off. And in the late 90s, this whole industry became like a gig economy, especially with the amount of sports to be broadcasted these days.
And so for the average guy that's doing those gigs, is there plenty of gigs to get, or is there this... It seems a little stressful, you know what I mean, to be contracting all the time.
Yeah, it could be. If you live in an area like where I am in New York City, right, just in the hockey season alone, you have 3 hockey teams, 2 basketball teams, and that's just sports, right? Because a lot of people cross over and do the talk shows or the studio shows, concerts, all different events like that. So the more metropolitan area you are, the more work there is.
As you start then with your company, how did the gigs continue to evolve from there?
You know, part of the reason for starting the company after this first situation was I wanted to have a backup plan, right? I didn't want to always be, running around the country traveling. I wanted a backup plan. I knew that the possibility of getting hurt was real, especially doing football and stuff like that, I needed a backup plan. My backup plan was this business. So every time we got one show, I tried to find a way to get another show and another show and another show. Who are the clients? I researched who the clients were. I started paying more attention to that sort of thing.
Just so our audience can get a better handle, who have been some of your major clients, or what is the bread and butter now for your production? I realize, and we can talk a little bit, you guys have gotten some pretty significant scale these days, right?
Yeah, for our television hiring business, we do a ton of work for the networks. We do a lot of work for the networks, sub out some of their shows to these production companies that we do a lot of work for. We've crewed the New York City Marathon in the past, the Super Bowl when it was in New York in the past. We do a ton of boxing for Showtime, all the DAZN boxing, all the hockey for SNet and the regional Canadian feeds when they come to New York.
So when you did the Super Bowl, is the entire camera production for the Super Bowl just your company, or is there a number of companies that are brought in?
We did it for a few of the networks. We didn't do it for if the main NBC or CBS, ABC, or Fox network. We did it for the NFL network, for ESPN, for all the other companies that come in. But we probably had 200-300 people working over a 2-week period.
How aggressive or tenacious do you have to be to try to get these gigs?
You have to be aggressive. You have to sell yourself on why these companies should use you over the next person. And then you have to provide and here's the trickiest part in this business is providing the client with the best possible skill set person who's available.
And why is that an air quotes?
That is because the best skill set person may and likely is not available.
Already has a gig.
But the client wants the best with no warning. Sometimes it's just impossible to deliver.
Are you still behind the camera at all, or because your business is, and I know your business is over 20 years old now, right? But as it's developed, are you still behind the camera, or are you more management? How does that work?
Not any longer. I spent over 22 years traveling the country shooting. So, my body kind of has given up on that. But yeah, staying home. And we have the second business that we opened, Viridity Entertainment Services. So that's where I focus my time.
We're going to get to Viridity in a second. But one of the things you mentioned was your body. What kind of a physical workout is it holding a camera?
Well, let's take a football game, for example, right? So the game is 4 quarters and tons of commercial breaks. But can't put the camera down in between commercial breaks because something could be happening or going on the sideline. Then you're shooting before the game starts, an hour and a half before the game starts. As soon as the first player comes on the field, you're shooting warm-up shots. What if someone gets hurt in warm-ups or something like that? So the game might only be a certain amount of time long, but you're shooting for well beyond that.
How heavy is a camera?
25 pounds.
Okay.
For 5 hours.
Does your average camera person, are they work out all the time?
Yeah. And to do this, and I primarily did handheld, I had a knot in my shoulder, like this was like numb.
Yeah.
But yeah, you have to be in really good shape, especially like a handheld camera operator on the sideline of a football game, because you're running up and down the sideline trying to get to the next shot or not get hit or, or get the replay or get the shot that you need to get.
In covering sports, have you ever been injured while holding the camera? I always seem to see, at least in the NFL, a guy getting hit. The guy getting hit is the guy with the sound dish.
Oh, the parab mic. It's a big target. Yes. My first incident was at Shea Stadium, where the Mets used to play before Citi Field. Mm-hmm. I was doing a big hard camera at low third, which is the camera position by the away dugout, field level. My responsibility was to shoot the runner on second, because he was the lead runner. But you're always taught to watch the pitch. But you have to look a little bit off to the side to get to the pitcher's mound. You know what I mean?
Got it.
Next thing I knew, I wake up in the hospital. I got a line drive off Joe McCune from the Mets bat, and I fell 7 feet into the bottom of the dugout. And the funny part of the story is when I fell, I kind of jerked the camera from the runner on second to the pitcher's mound. The pitcher was walking around the pitcher's mound, and they used my camera 3 times while the medical staff is tending to me in the dugout. On the 4th time, the pitcher walks onto the grass off the mound, and I didn't pan with him, and they start yelling at me. And this was all told to me by my other friends on the crew, that they were yelling at me for me to pan.
I think baseball would be more risky than football. I mean, you can kind of see it coming.
No, I didn't see I was doing Notre Dame football game, camera on the sideline. There was a punt. So up with the punt, and it went to the opposite side of the field. Not near me, the opposite side of the field. These 2 guys come grappling down the field, holding each other's jerseys. Next thing I knew, I wake up in the hospital. And I saw all 12 camera angles. It literally came to the blind side of my camera. So I didn't even see them coming at me because it's to my blind side.
Yeah.
Now I have 2 people that are working behind me that are supposed to protect me and supposed to yank me out of the way, but they were taking pictures with their phones.
Oh, got it. So you have your own kind of security when you're running the camera on the sideline, right? People watching out to make sure you don't get trampled.
And to help with the cable.
I like that. Well, we're going to pause here for a second. When we come back, I want to ask you about some of your most memorable experiences while filming live sports. Hey there, this is Joe. You know me as the host of this podcast, but did you know that I'm also the co-founder and president of Moxie Wealth Management, a boutique wealth management firm in Minneapolis, Minnesota? My team and I excel at taking complex family and business planning concepts and making our financial advice easy to understand. We recognize the trust that executives and families place in our team and value our role in helping our clients be intentional with their assets. When you partner with Moxie, my team and I focus on creating a plan that encompasses your financial goals and philanthropy, while also understanding how you want your wealth to impact your family and future generations. You can trust our unique expertise to build a thoughtful yet strategic wealth and legacy plan for your future. To learn more about me and my firm, send me an email at joe@moxiewealth.com. That's joe@moxie wealth.com. I'm a registered representative and investment advisor representative of Securian Financial Services, Inc. Securities and investment advisory services offered through Securian Financial Services, Inc., member FINRA SIPC. North Star Resource Group is independently owned and operated. Moxie Wealth Management is affiliated with North Star Resource Group. We're talking with Howie Zales about his experiences in sports television broadcasting. So what, in the years that you were behind the camera, do you have 1 or 2 experiences that were like, this was the coolest thing I ever filmed?
Yeah, definitely. I was the camera operator that pulled Michael Phelps out of the water in the Greece Olympics when no one knew who he was. He had just won his first gold medal. So I was a camera operator that was bending down. There's a big picture of him and me in the USA Today from that day. But, and then finding out years later who he became, I thought that was pretty cool. When the U.S. women gymnastics team won their gold medals in Beijing and London.
Wow. Fantastic. That's very cool. So I just kind of geek out getting all those experiences. But so tell me about Viridity and the development of that.
Before the pandemic started, we had started Viridity, and it was going to be something completely different than what it became. It was going to be a business that was going to kind of run alongside HJZ Productions, but we were going to handle payroll for all of our clients' travel crew that they were going to bring into the New York area. We would absorb the burden. Mm-hmm. We would, make sure that all these employees were trained in harassment, so on and so forth. Then the pandemic happened. We had a total pivot, looking for stuff to do. I started researching live streaming, and being Jewish, with the holidays coming up, I was talking to the rabbi. This is what we need to buy. This is how we need to set things up. And I got a lot of advice from a lot of smart people. And as we're in the temple setting up this whole 4-camera live stream for the community, I was like, there's got to be a business in this somewhere. And no sooner did a client call and say, we need to interview 9 baseball players in 9 weeks, but the interviewer cannot leave her house. How can we do that? I said, I'll figure it out. I know we can do it. Yeah. And I called my wife, and I said, Jenny, I don't know what I just agreed to, but I have no idea how we're going to do it.
Right.
But we pulled it off.
It should be worth noting, HJZ, your first business, you're the crew and the production crew for live events. Right. So when the pandemic hits, how stressed out are you at that? I mean, right? What's going to happen, right?
Yeah, absolutely. March 11th. That was our last show. We had a soccer game that night, and I think that's the day everything got shut down. Thankfully, we had enough money in the bank where we had paid all of our employees, and we were pretty much up to date, and we were waiting for all this money to come in. So that certainly helped and was in our favor. And then we started this other business where it just kind of made sense.
How hard is it to pick up the live stream business? And what I mean by that is to learn it, to be able to produce it. How steep was the learning curve? Or was it, it's just a tangent over from whatever we were doing before?
As a camera operator and someone that's been in the TV business for a long time, you have to know what a good camera shot is, right? Mm-hmm. And looks like, and how to frame it and things like that. So that definitely helped with the leap, and how to put a TV show together, the thought process behind it, follow a storyline, that all kind of translates, but that's it. I had to relearn everything that I do, because our business is very based on the internet and networking and computers. And we operate all of our shows in a cloud, in an Amazon web server that we have, several on the East Coast, several on the West Coast, depending where we are. So I've had to learn so much about a lot of new topics that it was a bit of a learning curve.
Is there a way to quantify how many live streams that you guys produce every year?
No, because some of them are big projects that take weeks to get together. One we have coming up in 2 weeks, where there's going to be maybe 50 people at a hotel in New York, and then this company event is going to be streamed, across the globe to wherever their employees are located. And these type of events take a lot of meetings, a lot of setup time, back and forth with graphics. So it takes a lot to put them together.
So it sounds like what you're saying is now live stream, it's a corporate item.
Yeah, we do a lot of tons of corporate.
Give me an example of an event from a corporate standpoint that you guys have done.
We've done shows for Booking.com, Xerox at the NASDAQ, all different types of companies, big and small, where there could be, a stage with, 4 or 5 speakers, or a panel of 4 or 5 people. And basically and any slide presentations that any of the speakers would have, we handle all that production. The speaker gets a little clicker. When they want us to advance the slides, they press a button. We see the light up, and we know to change the slide. And that happens in the virtual world and in the on-site as well. So yeah, we definitely take pride in what we work with, because we can handle both sides of the production, from the beginnings and makings of the broadcast to the actual putting the tech piece on.
I want to get a little bit, kind of steer away a little bit from the business stuff and some of you more personal here.
Sure.
Did you have like a mentor or a sponsor or somebody that really kind of helped to pave the way for you in the industry?
Yeah, I just actually spoke to him the other day. My first mentor is my friend Chris Kelly from college, who taught me so much in college because he was older about, learning TV equipment and things like that. So yeah, he was my first mentor. And then I had Ted Flender, another professional mentor. And each phase of my career, I've added mentors on.
I'm just trying to think somebody else, if somebody else wanted to get into your business and they said, all right, I'm going to start a production company. What are your maybe 2 or 3 biggest pieces of advice for anybody who wanted to get into your industry?
Probably have a niche of what you want to do. Just saying I want to get into TV production is a little big. What sort of part of production? Is it sports? Is it entertainment? Is it nature shows? Whatever. Have a passion about what you're looking to try to produce.
Really never thought of it that way, but really focusing on a genre.
Yeah.
So, I suppose as you're saying it and I'm thinking through it, if you're nature, there's a cool way to get nature, right? Or if it's sports, you're thinking ahead on the sports. I suppose I really never dove into what you're shooting, and knowing how to shoot it is going to be very different depending on whatever it is, right?
Yeah, no doubt. And there's entertainment camera people that shoot the talk shows and shoot, soap operas that couldn't shoot a sporting event, and vice versa. So just knowledge of how to use the camera is only half the battle.
Right. As an outsider, I feel like, man, I really simplified what my thought was of that. But it seems like such an actual difficult craft that takes time if you're really going to be good at it.
Yeah, and each sport, if you watch it from my perspective or people that are in the business, it all has a formula. How each sport, how it's shot, how it's covered is all pretty much a basic formula. Each director might tweak a certain part of that, but that's how you get by day to day, year to year, season to season, is because the formula of the event you're shooting.
I'm just thinking out loud because I'm super interested in the process, but like, if you're producing the Super Bowl and you mentioned a director, how many camera people are there, and is the director calling every shot? How does it work? You know what I mean? How do we know which camera that we're going from? What's the behind the scenes of how that works?
There's usually upwards of 55 cameras just on the game coverage itself. Some may never even get aired. Depends if they're following a specific player.
So you might have a camera person who's assigned to, you just have Joe Montana.
Yep.
You've got Joe Montana all game. Wow. Okay.
In an event like that, yes. And then, there's the producer and director in the TV truck, and, there's a meeting beforehand, so every person knows their responsibility. And basically, in football, there's 6 different major scenarios. 3 for when the ball is going left to right, and 3 from when it's going right to left. And depending what camera number you are, where the ball is on the field and which direction it's going is what your responsibility is.
And producer, director, I might not be using the right words, but are they seeing all the cameras at once, and are they just calling out cameras, or how does that work?
The director sees all the cameras. They're usually grouped in a fashion that makes sense to the director. So 1, 2, and 3 are probably in order because it's camera left, center, camera right.
Yeah.
The handhelds are probably in one area, so they only have to look at one area depending on what's going on. The producer may not see all the cameras because they're seeing all the replay machines, because that's what the producer is in charge of. So mainly in front of them are the replay machines.
Who's doing the evaluation of the quality of the work? Do you know what I mean? In other words, go ahead.
The director, right? But if you're working on an event like the Super Bowl, and I worked with NBC Sports for 20-something years, I traveled with the director. So he would request me and the other guys I worked with, when you're at the level of the Super Bowl and network shooting, you get requested by the director. So there's really no grading system if you're asked back.
Yeah.
That you've done a good job
I got
for
it.
the season. But
Yeah.
but on the regional level, like the local sports, if you're watching like Minnesota Twins home game, right? If the director and producer are the ultimate graders, if they don't like the way someone's doing something, they'll talk to the people that are in charge of the hiring.
So on the to say another way, the director is from either the national or the local network.
Yeah.
Right. The director's not like with your group. Your group
Correct.
is supporting the director.
Separate.
And so that's how
Yes.
that works. And so if that director's
Yes.
happy, then you get invited back. Got it.
Correct.
And I imagine that this must be probably in both of your businesses, the live stream and your original production company. If you can find, I'll call it an artist, right? The cameraman and the crew that can do a good job, and you get confidence in them, you just keep going back. And then the word probably spreads.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, is this has to be, because you've exploded, right, on both of these companies.
When I do a live stream, I have the same 3 to 4 people working with me. If they're not available, then I tell the client we're not available because I don't want to do it with anybody else.
Got it.
And it'll just take a chance on something going wrong. So that means the universe, it was not right for us to have that job. That's the way I look at it.
What do you think has been the greatest learning experience for you as a business owner? I was going to say, a lot of times we talk to business owners and they, with the pandemic, they had to pivot. A lot of them had to pivot, and it was scary times, and it seems like you did a fantastic job kind of coming through that pivot. But maybe aside from that, what have you learned or has been the greatest learning experience for you since you've owned your business, like I guess going back over 20 years now?
I realized that I'm much more of a salesperson than I really thought, because you have to look at everything as a sale, and not you're trying to convince your significant other to fall in love with you. You're trying to build more clients. So, everything is a sale.
You talk about, I read somewhere where you're talking about the importance of following your gut instinct when it comes to business.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit more about that.
Every time I kind of made a big decision, whether it was hiring or firing, I just went with my gut instinct. I didn't really think about it too often. When a project or an opportunity comes about, I try not to hem and haw. I just go with what my initial gut tells me. And, one of the latest stories was during the pandemic, our HJZ production, nothing had been going on for like 3 months. HJZ's production was called and asked to produce the graduation at West Point because the parents couldn't even come of the cadets. So I hired a producer, I hired the director. The director said he needed to have his technical director at the show. That's a person that, when the director says camera 1, he or she takes camera 1, and so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. But the phone number he gave me for this Jamie guy was 818. And to a New Yorker, that means they are in California. They're not in New York. Plenty of my guys were sitting at home for the last 3 months during the pandemic, not working. So I kind of put up a little argument and said, well, I got plenty of my own people that could do the job. And he said, I need to have my guy. And then something like just got me in the stomach and said, you know what? Stop. Go with this. There's a reason why. Just hire Jamie, trust your gut, and do it. And Jamie's the one that, I met. We started talking about live streaming. He had just got into it, and he taught me everything he knew and more. And so, we're good friends on top of it.
It seems a lot in business that it's a matter of, get the right person. And in a sense, you can teach them to do whatever you want, but you have to start with the right people.
Yeah, if you don't surround yourself with smart people.
Yeah, it sounds like with Jamie, you knew something about him that you need to be with him. So how do you define being successful, both maybe personally and professionally?
Personally, I define it as having more time with my family, because and I'm comparing it to when I was a full-time camera operator, because now I don't have to take that job, or I can go for a walk with my wife at 11 o'clock in the morning if I need to schedule, on that day. I have much more flexibility, although more responsibility, because I'm now running 2 businesses, and all of our income is relying on those businesses.
Do you imagine with being able to control your time a little bit better now that maybe you'll work longer? Do you ever give thoughts to that? I guess I haven't even.
Yeah. Yeah, without a doubt. And now that I'm not having to physically work in terms of shooting every week, yeah, without a doubt.
And then kind of professionally, how do you approach the growth of both of your companies? Do you have big goal setting, or is it kind of like where things go is where they, I know there's organization and process and things that you want to get done, but is it kind of like whatever hits us, we're going to solve it? Or how are you when it comes to kind of creating a vision and goals and things like that with your business?
HJZ is kind of like whatever problem comes about, we'll solve it. There's not too many clients out there. And if you get too big, then you could ruin a good thing. So we love the events we do. We're always searching for more because, yes, we want to, grow. But we've branched out nationwide, and we're looking to grow each of the areas that we're in and hopefully bring more work to more people. And Viridity, we're looking to scale that as well to take on more productions and help serve new clients.
Cool. When you look forward now, because it seems like you're in a good spot, with your businesses, and it seems like you're kind of fulfilling whatever it is that is meaningful for you. But when you look out to the future, what excites you the most?
I love technology. I've learned so much in the technology space since the pandemic with live streaming and hybrid and in-person events. That, professionally excites me.
Give me an idea of what's next gen for cameras.
It's a good question. We're already at 4K and 8K, although really nothing is being broadcast in 4K.
What's the holdup on the 4K? Why is that?
So the bandwidth, takes up a lot of space. The reason why there are some 4K cameras on every big football show, but what they're used for, since the show is not being broadcast in 4K, basically they have a wide shot of the field, and in an instant replay, they can zoom in to any one player or 2 players, and because it's 4K, not lose any resolution when it's zoomed in.
Well, I guess, Howie, we're going to leave that there probably. I appreciate you sharing your story and all your insights, and I wish you good luck with all your businesses as you move forward.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to be here.
You've been listening to Howie Zales, founder of HJZ Productions and Viridity Entertainment Services. To learn more about Howie and the work he does, you can find his company at hjzproductions.com. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Ascent Podcast, a show about inspiring people who explain their path to achievement. I'm your host, Joe Burgess, wealth advisor and founding partner of Moxie Wealth Management. You can learn more about me and my firm at moxiewealthmanagement.com. That's MOXIE wealthmanagement.com. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.